I've been looking forward to this. How the turntables turn on this show sometimes, eh? The problem with Chelsea. We got to see a glimpse into Rory's, Chelsea yesterday and what was going on. I'm sure everyone's seen his video, but we're going to cover it all here on
I've not seen the video. What happened on the video, Ad?
Lost to Nottingham Forest 1-0 yesterday. Rhythm is a dancer. Anthony Elanga scoring goals from everywhere. Yeah. Come from Scandinavia to be Forest saviour. And now he's scoring goals and he scored the winner. Nico Jackson. I told you his name's Miss Jackson, didn't I? That sitter.
Yeah,
it's
terrible.
Was it as bad as it looked, or is there any room to save stretching? And I'm just trying to be devil's advocate.
No, it's important to explore it from all directions. You're generous to do that, but no, it's a total sitter that you have to score.
10 out of 10 awful miss.
Yeah, I mean nobody misses that chance. Any footballer that you can think of, any sort of iconic, decent footballer.
Kai Havertz.
No, but you know when I think about footballers from back in the day at Chelsea, like when Chelsea were not good. Yeah. Neil Shipley up front, he scores that. Yeah. Like Solomon Kalou was our fourth choice goal scorer. Solomon Kalou scores that.
Easy.
Oh, yeah. Solomon Kalou scores that. Well. Yeah, and he scored another one that day just to be sure. So no, it was a shocking miss. I like Jackson. I think he's played really well lately. I like the way that he plays as well, direct, aggressive on the front foot, and he's actually a bit of a breath of fresh air considering that the players that we've had to put up with in that position over the years. So I do like Jackson, but no, it was a terrible miss. But it shouldn't come down to that. You're playing Nottingham Forest at home. And look, they're a decent team. I think they've got a very good manager. There's a lot of plus points to be said about them. But Chelsea need to beat them. Like, there's no two ways about it. But it shouldn't come down to Nicholas Jackson's miss. It isn't about that. It's about a 90-minute game.
Well, the reason you lost is because Nottingham Forest opened you up through the middle of your two centre-backs. There's obviously a comment that's gone out on a certain Chelsea Twitter account suggesting that Thiago Silva was maybe at fault throughout the game at least.
What's happening, everyone, and welcome to the club. Now, before we get into this clip, I need to let you know that this episode is brought to you by the wonderful people of Super 6. Super 6 is a totally free-to-play game. It won't cost you a penny, and if you get 6 scores correct, you will win £250,000. Buvey, Adam and I have our own league, so please consider joining it. The mini league code is club23. It'd be wonderful to see you there. And if you win our mini league, you will get £100 to spend totally for free at Classic Football Shirts. Hope you enjoy the clip.
For me, that looked like Levi Colwill running really slow, it looked like treacle. He was running so slow. But either way, the whole of your middle of the park, the midfield, the centre backs, still got Conor Gallagher in midfield. You're getting ripped apart.
I think there's problems, Buvey. I think there's problems, and if I'm being totally frank, I think that we are on the precipice of a disaster. Like, we're sleepwalking into a crisis, aren't we?
What is that in terms of a literal footballing? What is it?
Something similar to last year. So no improvement.
Close to bottom half.
Close to bottom half. Yeah. I think anything between 8th and 12th is really bad.
Crazy.
And if you think about what's happened, I think Pochettino needs to be criticised a bit. I think we need to ask exactly what kind of style we're playing. Why is Ben Chilwell playing as a forward? Which he effectively is. We've got 3 forwards and Ben Chilwell is playing as one of them. The problem with Chilwell, I like him. I think he's a very good player. I think he does a great job in a particular position. But the second that he cuts in from the left, in any kind of goal-scoring situation, he's on his right foot. Yeah. He's not that bloke. Expecting him to score those goals, you're the idiot for asking him the question. That's not who he is.
Of course.
So I'm not impressed with that. There's so much going wrong, and now this is Chelsea's worst start to a season since 1995. 1995.
What happened that season?
We got to the semi-final of the Cup Winners' Cup. Real Zaragoza beat us. Arsenal played them in a final.
Season.
95, 96. Yeah. With 95, 96, we got to the semi-final of the FA Cup. Manchester United, David Beckham at Villa Park. So no, nothing basically. Nothing is the bottom line. Semi-final.
Beat Liverpool in the final.
But no, we've got 4 points out of 4 games. The only team that we've beaten are on course to become the worst Premier League team that we've seen for a long time.
And there were periods in that game, you can let me know if I'm wrong, well, I know they were 1-0 down early and all that, but there was about 40 or 50 minutes of the game where, across both halves, where they were quite comfortable, I felt, Luton. Yeah. Tight at the back. I'm not saying they were great.
Luton could have scored at 1-0.
Yeah, Luton could have scored. But
you know what I'm trying to say? You didn't blow them away, really.
You know that I'm worried about Chelsea. But even I would say that watching that game, I was never really in fear that Chelsea weren't.
Can I just say, though, as well, I do think, especially with this team, you look at Thiago Silva, outside of him, Raheem Sterling's your oldest player. You got a very young squad, which you've made the point of saying quite a lot on this channel. You got Pochettino there, who's just come in. Just need some time. Everyone needs to be given time at that club, and that's one of the things you fear at Chelsea. Obviously, it's new ownership, new structure, and they seem to be a group that want to give managers time. You know, you look at the long contract they gave to Potter. You look at the direction they're going with the players that they're signing, even appointing Poch. It seems to be they're looking for the long-term project. They want to build something over the long term. If you're going to want to do that, you have to give a manager time. And I do think in Pochettino, you've got that manager now that you need to go, look, you got a couple of months to just settle this ship, getting more than that even. But you know, at Chelsea, it doesn't feel like you get that.
Mate,
pressure's there, the pressure's enormous.
We've been battered by we've lost to Forest at home. We've been battered at West Ham. If Salah scores that goal on the opening day of the season, we've lost that game. And the only team that we've played well against and beaten, and arguably not even played that well against, is Luton. So why do you get time in that situation?
Let's look at year 11 yesterday, for example. Sanchez, Disasi, Silva, Colwell, Gusto, Gallagher, Caicedo, Chilwell, Sterling, Fernandes, Jackson. There's so many players that you've just bought that will be coming into that team.
But they're bad players. Like this is the problem, and this is why. Look, I think Pochettino's a decent manager. I didn't really want him to be Chelsea manager. Everyone knows that. I think that he is probably the best of what we've had of late. Right, he's a decent manager, regardless of what I think of him. I think he's a decent manager. It isn't his fault. So, okay, whose fault is it? This is an ownership issue, and this is the problem. While we have these owners whose only motivation is to extract money from the club, like why did Todd Boehly? You know, when we do a fit and proper person test, we want to do a fit and proper person, make sure that we have the right people in the game. We'll often explore: is their money clean? And that's obviously very relevant. Where does their money come from? Can it be traced? Where was it acquired? What's the business? Can it be guaranteed for the long haul? The money is very important. Then we'll often take into account maybe political persuasions. Do you remember when Gaddafi was going to buy into the... Well, that wasn't allowed. That's taken into account. A question that is never really asked, I don't think, and certainly should be, is why do you want to buy the club? So why does Todd Boehly want to buy Chelsea? Why does Todd Boehly and Clearlake want to own the club? Is it because he grew up a Chelsea fan? Presumably not. Is it because he idolised Dennis Wise in his childhood? Probably not. Is it because he fell in love with the club when he saw them win the Champions League in 2012? Not to my knowledge, no, that didn't happen either. Is it because he wants to extract and squeeze as much money out of European sport as possible? Yes, that's the answer. So should that be allowed? And secondly, what we're doing in terms of building this team, it isn't about securing the future of the club. It isn't about building the best team or trying to create success. It's about marketability. It's about American sport being incredibly regimented. There are laws within American sport and American franchises that make it very difficult to make your money sweat within that sport. But European football is like the Wild West. So, you know, Todd Boehly, in terms of making money, the geezer knows how to do it. And I think the way that he makes money is to make sure that he's the smartest man in every room he walks in. He walks into very smart rooms. But he's come over here, and where Chelsea finish in the table is kind of neither here nor there in the short term. Like, the players that he signed, you know when you're reading them out there? Like, Disasi has been terrible, and there's no way that he's a better player than Trevor Chalobah. Right? There's just no way he is. Everyone will be, I'm sure people will be commenting. He's not. He's not a better player than Trevor Chalobah. Spend a fortune on Caicedo. Is he a better player than Billy Gilmour? Is it? Like, genuinely, is he a better player than Billy Gilmour?
No,
we spent $4 million.
He's not. Buvey said he's not, by the way.
Billy Gilmour
is a way better midfielder than Caicedo. I'm not taking this weird heat that as if you know infinitely more about football than I do. That's rubbish. Billy Gilmour is a technically gifted midfielder. He is.
Billy Gilmour, we sold.
He can control a midfield, Adam. Why is that a dramatic thing to say?
Because the question wasn't, can Billy Gilmour play well in midfield? It was, is he better than Caicedo?
Yeah, and he is. He's a better midfielder.
All right.
I just don't get. What do you mean let it settle like I'm an idiot?
Billy Gilmour did control the game at Wembley, didn't he? Billy Gilmour did control the England-Scotland game at Wembley. So I do think that. Look, regardless, we spent £150 million on Caicedo and we sold Billy Gilmour for $4 million. So there's something not quite right there. And I just think that when you look across that team, there are so many players. Like, you know, Bayern Mudryk, for example. Okay, maybe he's a brilliant player. But equally, there's jeopardy in footballers, isn't there? It's not always very easy. So no, I think that we're all over the place. The international breaks come at a
I think
good
they
time,
are in danger of, when you sell all of your academy players like that, especially like, this is a team as well, Chelsea especially, over the years, that have had a very good academy team. Like, to then just get rid of all these young, it must be disheartening for,
what's the point in
fans that go to Chelsea and Stamford Bridge and season ticket holders. They must want to see their young players.
And then you have to ask, why are we selling the young players that have come through Cobham? Is it because they're not good enough, or is it because they demonstrate only profit on the balance sheet of FFP? And it's got to be the latter. Like, there's no way that it was in Chelsea's interests to sell Lewis Hall. Like, Chelsea aren't a better team for selling Lewis Hall. Like, we've effectively become a selling club. We've managed to sell players to the 4 teams that finished not only above Chelsea, but in the Champions League spots. So players that Chelsea have decided aren't good enough, I guess. 4 of them have ended up at clubs who are all competing in the Champions League this year, while Chelsea aren't in Europe. So yeah, I am desperately anti this board. But while this board are there, look, Pochettino's fine, right? I think he's a good manager, fine. But it's almost insignificant what happens there or what happens on the pitch because it's so difficult with this ownership. This ownership are steering the club into oblivion.
A lot of people have been taking aim at Thiago as well. Do you feel like that's an easy one?
Have they?
Thiago Silva. We've seen a few bits. Again, it's social media. We've seen him reply to some criticism on social media as well, where people were saying, we're having to play a back 5 to shoehorn him in. And he came out and said, if you look closely at the game, we're playing with a back 4. There's no problem in assuming that I'm responsible for the defeat. Put the pressure on me. No problem. Yesterday, that was from Thiago responding to some of the criticism that he received online.
Well, that's going back to the point that I made. Do you know, when Chelsea get beat, I swerve social media as much as I can. That is going back to the point I was making about Ben Chilwell playing as effectively a forward. So although we've got 5 defenders on the pitch, but on some level, the point, look, Thiago Silva deserves an awful lot more respect than being sort of called out on Twitter by some no-mark. But I would also say that there is something weird about playing quite defensive at home against Forest. When we struggle to score as it is. So there is a little bit of truth in that. But generally speaking, I think Thiago Silva is the least of Chelsea's problems.